Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this ordinary meeting of the Planning and Transportation Committee. The meeting, as we have become used to now, will be held under the regulations allowing local authorities to meet formally using remote technology, and it is being streamed live and is available to view on our website. It's important for everyone participating in the meeting to please keep your microphones on mute when you are not speaking to reduce background noise disruption. And throughout the meeting, councillors should have the chat window open, as this will enable you to indicate when you wish to speak or if you have to leave the meeting. When you do wish to speak, when your name is called, you will need to unmute your microphone and wait for the word live and the red line to appear around your screen, and then please ensure you speak clearly. Most decisions will be made by the general assent of those present. However, if a vote is required, each councillor's name will be read out by the Assistant Town Clerk, and you will be asked to state whether you are for, against or abstaining on the question. If at any time the Town Council's technology fails, we need to adjourn the meeting for a short time, I will confirm this, and I will ask all those present to turn their cameras off and to mute their microphones while the problem is rectified, and I will then confirm when the meeting is to resume. We can only monitor the technology at our end. We cannot halt the meeting if a member of press or public experiences technology issues. I now ask the Assistant Town Clerk to carry out the roll call of all councillors and ask you to confirm that you are present. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Buckland.
Present.
Councillor Chase.
Present.
Councillor Long.
Present.
Councillor Rhodes. Councillor Tandy.
Present.
Councillor Turner. Councillor Turner.
Present.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we proceed to the agenda. Item 1 is mobile phones. Members are reminded, as always, to switch their mobile devices and others to silent for the duration of the meeting, please. Item 2, apologies, and I will ask the Assistant Town Clerk to confirm if we have received any.
There are none, Chair.
Thank you very much. Item 3 are declarations of interest. The standing declarations as listed on the agenda are noted. Members and officers are reminded to make any other declarations if they become apparent either now or at the appropriate time during the meeting. Are there any declarations now? There is. Councillor Buckland.
Am I live? Am I live? Yes.
You are.
Mr. Chairman, later under urgent business, I wish to declare my interest as a West Sussex County Councillor in reference to planning application WSCC /058/20 personal and prejudicial, and I will be in the meeting, but I will not be taking my right to speak on that item. Thank you very much.
Can I just check whether one is irrelevant to me, the Little Hampton Marina planning application for touring caravans and motorhomes? I'm an employee of the Caravan Club, so I'm not sure whether that would preclude me from being involved in this.
No, that's not relevant in this particular matter. Thank you, Councillor.
Okay, thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Councillor Buckland, as well. That's noted. If any others become apparent, obviously members can declare them as and when. Item 4, the minutes. So the minutes of the meeting held on the 7th of December are circulated and present in the agenda pack at pages 4 to 10. Can I ask that everyone is firstly happy that they be approved, and that if that are approved, that we agree that I will formally sign them when circumstances allow and record that in the minutes?
Agreed. Agreed,
Yeah.
Chairman.
Yes, agreed.
Thank you, everyone. Item 5 is Chair's report and urgent items. There is no Chair's report, but there are 2 urgent items for which I will hand over to the Assistant Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. 2 items to report. The first is regarding the Rampion to Community Project Liaison Group. Members will recall that this was formed by the developers there for the new wind farm. There is a scheduled meeting for the 4th of February, but before that, the group are hoping to launch an informal consultation with draft proposals for the wind farm. That's expected to be launched in mid-January on the 14th. It'll be a virtual online event that they'll be operating and will probably run for a month. We're waiting for further details, but that's just for members to note. And as soon as we have that, we'll be circulating it and publicising it using the Town Council's social media. The second item, as Councillor Buckland referred to earlier, we received notification on Christmas Eve of a planning application that's been submitted by West Sussex County Council, and this is reference WSCC 05820 and relates to the Fitzallen Link Road to East Street, Littlehampton. Details of this application were circulated to members, and in summary, the application contains proposals for the addition of acoustic fencing on the east and west boundaries of the Fitzallen Link Road at the lower end of that particular junction from the East Street roundabout up to where the new works are. This will provide continuation of the acoustic barrier that's already planned for this road and leads into the southern section of the Leominster bypass. Members are asked to comment on the application, Chair.
Thank you very much, and I will ask if anyone wishes to speak about the application.
Sorry, can I ask something?
Yeah, we'll just hang on. We'll just send you live, Councillor Turner.
Thank you. Sorry, I don't have a chance to put my cue in the box. Can I ask about how this? Oh, this is a separate one, isn't it? This is the acoustic fencing. Sorry, I was looking at the other application. Sorry about that. Thank you.
It's okay. We will come back to you when we get to the right one. Does anyone else wish to say anything about the acoustic barrier? If not, am I to take it that the view of the committee is no objection?
I think it's essential that it's done, frankly.
Agreed. I agree with Jill.
So, I'm happy with it.
Wonderful. In that case, I think we have a response of no objection.
Thank you, Chair. That's noted.
Thank you very much. Right, item 6 on the agenda is public forum. In accordance with the remote meetings protocol, which has been introduced by the Town Council, any members of the public wishing to address the committee should have emailed their submissions to us a clear day before the meeting. We have received one, and I will read it out and then provide the council's response. So the representation is from Mr. Chester. And he says, members may be aware that just before Christmas, the Planning Policy Subcommittee at Arran received a report which summarised plans the County Council have for the A259 between Littlehampton and Bognor, including a traffic light junction replacing the Wick roundabout. Please will the Town Council make it clear to the County Council the following. 1. The roundabout with its greenery and trees on most arms is an attractive feature and should remain. 2. The roundabout works efficiently and will do so even better when the full Leominster bypass is open. In calling this location a four-arm junction, the report fails to acknowledge the entrance exit to Morrison's. 3. The parking laybys on 2 of the arms of the roundabout are vital to residents living on Leominster Road and Wick Street and to the school and should not be sacrificed for widening. In summary, could we please ask the County Council to withdraw its proposals for this location? And then the Assistant Town Clerk has gone back to the County Council today, and the response we have therefore come up with, and the response we have is obviously to thank Mr. Chester for his comments and his views, which we will note. The Town Council obviously is not strategically involved in this, but we are aware of the proposals that went before the subcommittee and that West Sussex are promoting regarding the improvements to the A259 between Bognor Regis and Littlehampton. One of the many proposals for this stretch is to replace, as Mr. Chester explains, the roundabout at Wick with a four-armed traffic light junction. In terms of the specific questions raised, having gone back to the County Council. We understand that the current proposals may involve a loss of some trees, but will not impact the parking lay-bys, which was point 3 on the A284 approach arms. And on the issue of Morrison's, the County Council have confirmed they will be approaching Morrison's as they develop the preliminary design proposals, and will continue to engage with them and parishes, which is us as a town parish council, in the consultation specifically, and most recently for us, this was North Littlehampton Steering Group. In terms of the next steps, because obviously Mr. Chester requested at the end that we withdraw, we asked the County Council to withdraw the proposals. So at the moment, the County Council's work is purely a feasibility study and a preliminary design phase. We understand that an informal public consultation is expected this summer, which will give us and other interested parties the opportunity to formally consider, and then the formal statutory consultation will not take place until 2022. And obviously, when that does happen, it will come, I assume, to this committee for the council to formulate its response. So we will bear Mr. Chester's words and reflections in mind as we go back, both informally and more formally, and we thank him for his views. Moving on to item 7.1, planning applications, list 50, 51 and 52, and I will hand over to the Assistant Town Clerk to take us through them.
Thanks, Chair. Okay, so referring to page 11 on your agendas, members, and Emily will be displaying the applications as we go through as usual. So the first on the list is planning application reference LU 331/20, and this is at 65 Fastnet Way and proposes a single-storey side extension. Unless otherwise stated, there's very few comments on the portal about any of the applications, and there are none in respect of this application. Hand over to committee for comments, Chair.
Councillor Long.
Thank you, Chairman. I was quite interested in looking at this one because it was, I thought, actually quite a nice design. At first I thought, is this a single or a two-storey building? But of course it's a bungalow. And it's basically, the extension is to fill in between the house and the garage to push out the existing kitchen area and so on, to create a kitchen diner and an entrance hallway. I don't have any particular problem with it, other than I queried access to the garden. Next door but one have done a similar thing, but has a flat roof, single level extension. Their parking might be slightly reduced, but they'll still be able to park in front of the garage if need be. But I honestly couldn't see any particular issues with it. Thanks.
Thank you, and then I will take that as a proposal for no objection, and as no one else has put a request to speak in, is the general assent of the committee that there is no objection to this application?
Yeah, no objection.
No objection.
No objection.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Chair. Next item on the agenda is planning application reference LU 315/20, and this is at 47 Pier Road. Those are old retail premises there that members might recall, and the application is to basically divide the current premises into 2 units, and the application proposes changes to the shop front only on the ground floor to facilitate that. And in the main, the work that would be required would be to replace the existing windows with store openings to enable the premises to operate as 2 outlets. Again, no comments on the website.
And no, Councillor Buckland.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to say, in principle, I do not have any issues with this at all, and if anything, welcome the what's one of the word? Can't think of the word. Proposals to have this done. At least it would open it up and be back being operable in an operational use along that part of the Pier Road. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Buckland, and then we go to Councillor Long.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'm happy with this one. My only question, while the units are both going to be retail, I just wondered what sort of retail. I'm not sure it's a particular issue, but I couldn't see anything that detailed what sort of units they would be, what sort of shops they would be. And I noticed that they're going to install roller blinds in front of each of the new shop fronts. From a security point of view, obviously that's a good idea. Not sure how that fits with other fronts in the area. Thank you.
If I may, Chair, they're seeking A1 use, which is general shops, retail, you know, it could be anything really, and they haven't been specific. I assume the reason for dividing it is to keep the options as open as possible in terms of future use. And as for the roller blinds, it's fair to say that the other premises in the area don't have that, but I guess it depends on the use.
Thank you.
Thank you. Then we've got Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Chair. I was just wondering about the fact that only one of the units has access to the toilet, and I'm wondering whether that is anything that would hold up application, whether they should provide toilet facilities for the other unit as well. It just seemed a bit strange to me that they were only allowing access from one side or providing a toilet on one side and not the other. So it was just a curiosity thing as much as anything else. Otherwise, I've got no real issue with it. I think the roller blinds on the front are a very good security aspect, and I think that's very good. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Councillor Buckland to come back.
Thank you, Chairman. In reference to, I was just going to clarify which Deputy Town Clerk has already done in reference to the roller blinds. There is no others in that area. However, what I would say is that to bring the premises up to a nice standard, I'm fully appreciative of, and it's obviously along the seafront where other premises along that side, it might encourage them to actually update some of theirs a little bit. So because that was one of the parts that Arran District Council were meant to be doing when it came to making Pier Road look nicer. So the fact of roller blinds, new doors, etc., can only be but a benefit, and hopefully will improve the area even more. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. So I think I'm hearing a general assent for no objection to this application. Is that agreeable?
Agreed.
Agreed.
It is, apart from the loo issue, I would have thought.
I'm going to look to the Assistant Town Clerk because I don't know if a lack of toilet constitutes a planning ground.
I don't know either, to be honest with you. I would say it's more building regulations, but if members wish to make an observation.
Yeah, we can put that in as just a comment afterwards.
Yeah, so just the observation about ensuring that toilet facilities are sufficient and can be accessed by both premises.
That's excellent, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be happy with that, especially given the number of times we are expected to wash our hands these days and for the foreseeable future. Thank you.
That's noted, Chair.
Perfect, thank you very much.
Okay, next planning application then for consideration is reference LU 32720, and this is at 38 Arundel Road, and it's an application to convert an existing house into 2 residential apartments, which constitutes some changes to the existing premises. The comments on the website thus far are from West Sussex Highways, who in principle don't have any objection to the proposals, but do draw the local planning authority's attention to the parking standards. And Environmental Health have also commented, and again they don't have any objections as such, but they do make some recommendations in terms of conditions for fulfilling the planning application if it's approved. Hand it back to members for comment, Chair.
We go first to Councillor Buckland.
Thank you, Chairman. Wow, West Sussex County Council not having an issue and bringing up to, well, no, actually having an issue about parking standards. That makes a change. Chairman, it's only just prior to Christmas have I had to have Biffa attend this site due to rubbish of a high amount being left out here. The whole premises is boarded up, and I can't remember what it was actually used for prior, but I also believe that it's been broken into and a bit of rough sleeping going on within the premises, etc., etc. Now, as much as I'm against these quality townhouses being turned into quote unquote flats or houses of multiple occupancy, whichever format you wish to use, this I would be very favourable of, because it's been empty too long. To actually have 2 dwellings in one is better than you know, having lots of, and that the parking as per normal where it is an issue. It's always going to be an issue because of, one, it's Arundel Road and there's no on-street parking on Arundel Road, and 2, that it actually basically bolts straight onto Connaught Road. So there is an issue there. The only parking, there are 3 garages that are lined to the rear of it. I don't know if any of them garages belong to that premises, and there's only parking round the back down from number 36 Arundel Road down to Franciscan Way. So this premises has actually no parking facilities at all, unless it's 1 or 2 of the garages that's actually in Connaught Road. And that, so overall, Chairman, I would be in favour of this application for, 1, bringing it back into use, 2, hopefully having, you know, not having to bring in Biffa to remove very large amounts of rubbish, including bedding and mattresses, etc., etc. And like I say, that was just before Christmas. And also it's unsightly as it sits at the moment because it's all boarded up. And again, Arundel Road is our main road, or one of the main roads in and out of Little Hampton, and it can only but improve that. So all in all, Chairman, I'm in favour of this. Obviously I'm not just the only one, but you know, to actually bring it back into usage and for the area to be tidied up, etc., etc., can only be a bonus for that area. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Buckland. We'll go to Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Chair. My issue is parking. Otherwise, I've got no issue with the conversion at all, but the fact that it's going to be 2 flats, that's likely to be at least 2 cars, possibly more, even though they're saying that it's in close proximity to the town centre, it's close to the bus stop, and there's a bike store. I still think that the vast majority of households will have at least 1 car. So I'm a bit concerned about the parking situation. Is there no way that the plans could have incorporated a parking space for each of the properties? Otherwise, I've got no issue with the actual conversion at all. Thank you.
Thank you. We go Councillor Chase.
Yeah, just to say I have no objection to this at all, and as long as they take all the guidance what has been noted by the other planning authorities, yeah, I'd like this to go ahead.
Thank you, and then Councillor Long.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I echo everybody else's comments. It's a nice application. The plans look very good. I was a little bit confused when within the design statement they suddenly started talking about Bognor Regis, but hey, there we are. There is the potential, if you've got a 2-bedroom 4-person flat and a 2-bedroom 3-person flat, ultimately you could have it up to 7 cars, 7 vehicles. So yeah, I still think the parking is a bit of an issue. I'd looked at, well, could they use the front garden for parking? But of course, that's one of the flat's own garden, and it would also mean an awful lot more expense to tarmac that over. You'd lose a very fine flint wall and all the rest of it. So yeah, everything's okay. It's a shame about the parking. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I think, subject to the parking issue, I think we're heading towards no objection. Would members prefer that no objection is kind of including a comment about endorsing the West Sussex comments about parking?
That would be lovely.
I agree with that.
Endorsing the County Council's comments, yes, where they say it's enough.
No, they don't. What they say, just to be clear, is they, under the parking standards, 3 parking spaces may be provided for the proposal, whilst on-street parking is limited to the immediate vicinity. There are comprehensive parking restrictions prohibiting vehicles from parking in places that would be a detriment to highway safety. We would not consider highway safety to be detrimentally affected by the proposal with nil car parking provision. The planning authority may wish to consider the potential impacts of this development on street car parking from an amenity point of view. So they are drawing the local planning authority's attention to that particular provision and suggesting they might want to take that into consideration.
Thank you for the clarification. I would be happy to support what's being proposed. Thank you.
Okay, and then Councillor Buckland wishes to come back.
Thank you, Chairman. Totally agree with what members are saying. Due to the fact that I know the area quite well, like I say, there are 2 or 3 garages along that side which I think should be investigated to see whether or not those garages belong to number 38. The other scenario is that to actually give any type of parking to number 38 would actually be going, you know, again, would be approaching highways. And I'll raise my hand as a West Sussex County Councillor on that part. Would be approaching them and asking for drop curbs to be put in, and obviously then demolition of the existing flint wall that is there to allow parking into the rear gardens. That's the only It's the only way that any type of parking could be established in that area, because like I say, there's no access to the rear as far as I'm aware, unless it goes via them 2 or 3 garages, which I'm not 100% certain on whether or not they belong to that property. If that was the case, then the possibilities are maybe the garages could be removed and parking put there. I don't know. So a little bit more investigation, I think, should be looked into to see whether or not them garages do or do not belong to number 38, because if there was a removal of said garage or garages, that would then allow the off-street car parking scenario to be entertained. But as it stands at the moment, the only route would be to obviously get drop curbs put in, go across the pavement and then into the back gardens. So I don't know what the committee think about that, whether or not the further investigation should be made in reference to that. I'll leave that up to the committee, but that's my statement on that part. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, and then the Assistant Town Clerk is going to respond, I believe.
Only to say, Chair, if I may, that those garages aren't within the boundary of this particular application, so it wouldn't be appropriate to consider that as part of the remedy for this situation. Members need to consider the application that they have before them and whether or not they consider it's appropriate development for the area.
Okay, so I will put to the meeting the general assent that there is no objection but endorsing the comments of West Sussex County Council regarding the potential impacts of the development on the amenity of on-street parking.
Yes, happy with that.
Agreed, Chairman.
Agreed.
Yeah, agreed.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, that's noted. The next application on the agenda is reference LU 33520, and this is a certificate of lawfulness which is sought regarding the current caravan and storage operation at the Little Hampton Marina. And again, there are no further comments on the planning portal. They're just seeking approval for a use that has been ongoing at that site for 10 years, apparently. Hand it back to the committee for comment.
First of all, Councillor Buckland.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't have an issue with this, full stop, because of obviously how long it's been running for, and that. However, my concern is, and this is my only concern, is obviously that when we had the severe flooding that happened over there, the caravan park storage area was another area that was hit hard, and it obviously had people's vehicles and caravans in it, and I know that's probably not our problem. It would be the marina's problem, and also issues with insurances, etc. But I just wanted to flag that up, that I do have concerns of it was hit hard when it flooded, and that's all I'd like to say. It's my only concern, and whether or not maybe the area should be raised to just lift it out of some kind of flooding or whichever. But obviously it's a lawful use, but I'm just bringing that to members' attention. Thank you.
Thank you, and then Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Chair. I have to say that as a motorhome owner, the storage facilities in the area are very, very limited, and this place is in general full. Yes, they did have an issue with the flooding. I'm not sure that it's happened as severely as it did this last year, and a large number of the vehicles were moved up to the end of the nearer the bridge, which was higher, it would be an enormous expense to have to raise the land to facilitate it not flooding anymore. But knowing many motorhome owners and caravan owners, it's an issue that they would take with their insurance company. But certainly the facility is definitely desperately needed. So I've got no issue with granting this at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to reiterate, this is a certificate of lawfulness, so it's actually just to agree what's already there rather than making changes. So on the basis of that, is the committee happy to not object?
I agree.
Yeah, no objection.
No
Yes.
objection.
Yeah, happy with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, that's noted, Chair. Next application on the list is reference LU 31420, and this is at 75 Griffin Crescent, and is an application for a single-storey front extension and a change to the crossover arrangements at the pavement in front of the premises. And this will provide a porch and a new shower room to the front of the building. Oh. Oh gosh, yeah, that's it. Back to the committee chair for comments.
Thank you. Anyone wish to speak on this application? Councillor Long.
Thank you, Chairman. On the face of it, I'm quite happy with this. At the moment, they have what looks like a small sort of porch area that's enclosed, and now want to, as has already been stated, install a shower room with a loo and so on, with the front door access to be on the left-hand side as opposed to the right-hand side, as it is at the moment, the left-hand side, and the shower room and the loos being accessible directly from the kitchen, because it's providing a bit of utility space as well. If we can just move the diagram up a bit, you see, no, the other way, down a bit, sorry. So we can, do you see what I mean? It's just one room with a shower and a basin and a loo and a fridge, and I couldn't make out what the other block was. That just seemed a bit strange. It would be nice if there was another little internal wall, so there is a utility area, and then access even by a sliding door into the loo and so on. But that maybe is just my personal preference. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, there is no one else wishing to speak. So any objection to this application or not?
No.
No, Chairman.
I've heard
No
two.
real objection.
Perfect. So I think we have general assent for no objection there.
Thank you, Chair. That's no objection. And moving on to the next application, which is reference LU 330/20, and that is flat 7 at Lakeview in Hendon Avenue, Littlehampton. And the proposal here is to replace the existing side window with a new door and Juliet balcony. Again, there's no comments, so hand it back to the committee, Chair.
Thank you. Just waiting to see if anyone wishes to speak. and we have Councillor Long.
I've obviously been doing my homework this afternoon. Thank you, Chairman. The one thing that they didn't include was a side elevation that showed what this would look like in comparison to the rest of that wall, as it were, that side of the building. I couldn't see whether it would be in keeping with what anybody else might have done. Yeah, I'm a little confused, and I almost feel we want a little bit more information about it, because there isn't a diagram of it with a Juliet balcony. And as I say, I don't know what the rest of that, the side of that building looks like. Thank you.
Councillor Turner.
Councillor Long took the words right out of my mouth. I was exactly going to say the same thing. There was no picture at all of how this looks or appears in relation to any of the other flats. And as it's flats, if it doesn't look the same, it's going to be out of keeping and it will look very odd. So I would personally like more information, and I'd be inclined to reject this and object to it on that basis. Thank you.
Okay, so we have an objection, a proposal to object on the grounds of it is not in keeping and would, trying to think of the phrase, affect the. I'm just saying not in keeping. I think that's close enough. Anyone else wish to speak before I put that to the committee? No, so no answer clear, so I will put, is it the general consent of the committee to object on the grounds that the proposals are not in keeping? I've heard nothing, so I will ask if anyone wants to make a counter proposal. In which case, if no one is speaking, I think we may just have to go through councillors and ask for object, no objection, or abstain. Everyone's gone very quiet.
Well, I've already stated my piece, and I'm happy to object to it. Thank
So
you.
I've got definite two people wanting to object. Anyone? Is there any contrary view to that?
No, Chairman, I'd happy to object. Thank you.
Right, on account that that's 3 out of 5 present, I will take that, I think, as general assent. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Chair. That would be an objection that's not in keeping with the character of the existing development. The next application on the current list is reference LU 33720, and this is an application to modify some existing section 106 obligations and extend the triggers for the provision of certain elements of the infrastructure at the North Littlehampton development, namely that the developer can schedule the works so that instead of them being available from the occupation of the 350th dwelling, that is moved to the 450th dwelling, and that is there to give them time really to complete the works on that would increase the bypass there and bridge works. Included within the application is a traffic impact assessment, which looks at the impact it would have in terms of delaying these works and the additional traffic that would be created by the further 100 dwellings if approved. There is one objection on the website already, which questions the proposals in terms of the strain that were put on the existing road network to have those additional dwellings with a delayed of these improvements. happy to hand it back to the committee for comment.
Thank you. Is there anyone wanting to comment on triggers? Councillor Lalong.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I was wondering about the local road infrastructure. Where will all that traffic go? Because it all would come out presumably onto Toddington Lane, going in one direction or the other. I also wondered if this is going to affect the the already agreed with section 106 triggers. What impact will that have on whatever plans there were for the section 106 agreements? Does that make sense? Those are my concerns anyway. Thank you.
Councillor Turner.
Yes, I agree. My concern is the other infrastructure of GPs, schools and dentists, that a further 100 occupations would have. Will we have that facility available for the extra people, or is provision going to be made in conjunction with the increase of occupation? So my concern is the extra infrastructure.
There's two parts to that. Number one is that I think we've already heard quite clearly from the NHS we aren't getting any health facilities. The school is accounted for separately in section 106, so that is protected and is coming, but I think the trigger is substantially later, I think, from memory. And then from the planning point of view, I know the assistant town clerk will say, if I don't say it, that this is a very narrow application about the bridge and about the road, so we have to relate comments to that. From my point of view, I entirely understand it. It is frustrating for those of us who have been around for a few years and have seen this emerge and put back countless times. I mean, we've always said all the way through that the infrastructure needs to come first, and this is why, because otherwise we end up in a situation where you have 400, 500 houses already up there occupied with all the traffic that brings and nothing in place for it. Unfortunately, once again, we weren't listened to, and I suspect next time and the time after that we also won't be listened to. But there we go. Realistically, I can't see anything happening apart from this being approved, on account of it would, if it's not, it would shut down the entire building, and I suspect well, drag it to a halt. So whilst I would love it to say no, you've got to do it, I suspect the chances of that happening are very low. But there we are. Any other member wish to speak?
I have to agree with every sentiment that you've just said, Chairman. Everything you've just said, and that's where we are. Thank you.
Yes, sadly, I must agree as well.
And me.
So I fear we're probably heading for a
reluctant.
Reluctant, that's the word I'm looking for. A reluctant no objection, and we merely repeat the fact that, well, we can't put this, but I would like to say told you so, but I don't think that would go down well with the planners. I better put that to the meeting. Is that a general assent that there's no objection we can realistically make to this?
Unfortunately, that's correct.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, I agree, and I agree with the reluctant bit as well. I almost want a diagram that says, right, this section of the overall plan will be done by this time, that one will be done by then. I find it difficult to get that larger picture, but maybe that's just me. Thanks.
It's almost like they're deliberately doing it so people don't know, but I wouldn't say it.
You cynic, you.
Agreed, Chairman. As you rightly have said, our only problem, and you sit on the North Hampton steering group the same as I do, with this, and and to make these things happen, or to trigger, as they like to use, these things were always put into place. So it's a case of, you know, I totally support everything you've said and agree with it, and the word reluctantly. So well done, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Rant over, and we will move on with the list.
Thank you very much. That's noted, Chair. If I can turn members' attention to the supplementary list now, and there's 2 applications there on list 52. The first one is reference LU 34420, which is a listed building consent for structural works that need to be completed at number 9 South Terrace. This is a fairly new application, and the next one is the same, although it's in a different place, in the sense that there's extensive information on the website in terms of statement of works and why they are required, but as yet the conservation area officer hasn't had the opportunity to comment, so there's no comments on the website as yet, but hand it over to members for their views.
Thank you very much. So 9 South Terrace, listed building consent. Councillor Long first.
Thank you, Chairman. This needs to be looked at in the light also of the original application, LU 10420.
Oh yes.
Obviously, where they've started to do the work that was approved in that application, it looks as though they found a lot more that needs doing, and it nearly had me in tears. It was very sad reading about all the additional work that's going to be needed as they've started to uncover the walls and all the rest of it. So my feeling is this really does need to be done, because there seems to be a severe danger of some element of collapse. I wondered whether the conservation area officer's comments that were made on the first application are the same for this one. But as I say, my feeling is that it does need to be done. So I can't see any reason to object, as long as, you know, the work is done to the approval or to the agreement of the conservation area officer. Thank you.
Thank you, and we have Councillor Buckland next.
Thank you, Chair. I'm a bit miffed, really, and I totally concur tonight, first time for tonight with Councillor Long. But I'm also a bit miffed why it's actually come back to us. I think that, you know, yes, the works do need to be done, and that's where I totally agree with Councillor Long. However, I'm surprised that this hasn't gone to the conservation officer to begin, you know, whether to begin with or not. So I'm a bit miffed to why it's actually come to us when, you know, I think my personal opinion is it should have gone straight to him, and obviously building control, and that to look at what's going on, etc., before bringing it to us. But I don't have any objection to this, as like Councillor Long has already said, as long as it's done in accordance with. Thank you.
We've got Councillor Turner, and then I will come to the Assistant Town Clerk to respond to what's been said. So, Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Chair. I, like Councillor Long, was very upset reading what a distressed state this place seems to be in, and the work that's now needed to be done to it. South Terrace are beautiful buildings, and they do need to be preserved, and so I have no objection at all to any work that's required to bring them up to the level that is required of the listed type buildings that they are. So I've got no objections to this, and I am pleased that they are taking it to such an extreme that they're having to come back to us because there's extra work needed doing. It means that they've investigated it fully. So thank you.
Thank you, and then to the Assistant Town Clerk.
Just for clarification, really, Chair, it's not that it hasn't gone to the Conservation Area Officer, it's a timing issue with this. The consultation will have been issued and he will have been informed at the same time everybody else is. It's just that with the Christmas break and the dates falling for our committee, he probably hasn't had the opportunity to even look. Just wanted to make that point so that members were clear, Chair.
Thank you. I haven't heard any objections. So I'm going to put that this is a no objection. Is that agreeable?
Agreed, Chairman.
Agreed.
Yes, agreed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. And the last application on the supplementary list is reference LU 34120, and again that's a listed buildings planning consent at 3 Western Road, where they are making changes to the ground floor of the building there, and that will involve some work to a listed building. And again, because of the timing issue, there aren't any comments there from the Conservation Area Officer.
We start with Councillor Long.
Thank you, Chairman. I looked very carefully at all the detail on this, and it was at some point when I was reading one of the design statements, and it said on the application actually that the repointing work and so on started, according to that, on the 1st of June 2002. Then I started to realise that the work's already been done, as far as I can make out, but sadly it's a listed building, but they don't appear to have had any permissions or comments from the can't speak now, the Conservation Area Officer, in terms of would it be all right if they remove that internal wall and that beautiful fireplace and so on. And I was a bit taken aback that they must have known this was a listed building but didn't ask any advice. So I'm a bit torn now. It's not as though you can say, well, no, you can't do that, because they appear to have already done it. As I say, if you look at one of the reports, the photographs are there to show there's this great big beam that they've put up in place and all the rest of it. So it's kind of a fait accompli, but they're beginning to realise that, oh, actually, we should have had permission to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Long. And then there is no one else wishing to speak. So given what Councillor Long has just said, there isn't really a lot we can do, I think, here. So unless anyone wishes to propose anything to the contrary, I'm suggesting no objection.
Agreed.
Agreed, Chairman.
Agreed.
And in that, we will take that as general assent. And I think that is the end of the lists.
Thank you, Chair.
Everyone. Oh, I just need to get my script back. Hang on. 7.2 is the local plan update. So there was a parish briefing from which the Assistant Town Clerk will give us a brief report back, I believe.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Yes. Back in November, in mid-November, we reported to the committee that there would be a parish briefing with an update in terms of progress that the District Council was making in revisions to the local plan. One of the things that they do on a regular basis is review the housing, economic, land availability assessments. And the HELA, as it's known, is used to assess what land can be used for development to help plan for the building in the area. So these are periodically updated, and they provide the evidence base for local plans, and the link that was provided to members with the agenda relates to the most recent update that was published by Aaron a short while ago. This material and the update was also presented to the District Council's Planning Policy Subcommittee in mid-December, and that highlighted really that one of the main changes from the last HELA that was done was that there's less sites available for development now. This is an issue for the district, as they need to find a way to resolve their inability to demonstrate a 5-year housing land supply. In terms of its effect on us, we have a neighbourhood plan which highlights areas where we would like to see development and makes provision for development over and above what's in the local plan if required. And at the time that this all came forward, the town council has maintained its position that it wouldn't review its neighbourhood plan, but it would work with the district council on small sites development plans for developments that needed to come forward to make up the shortfall in the housing supply. What's happened now is that the district council has suspended that small sites development work, but they are still working on how they can take forward their local plan and address the issue of the 5-year housing land supply. So the purpose of me bringing this update to you was I had hoped to have something more substantial, but I don't. At this point in time, planning officers are due to bring forward a further report for that planning subcommittee to consider in spring this year. So I'm just asking the committee really to note the revised HELA and just to say that we'll keep you informed of progress. Happy to take any questions if there are any.
Okay, are there any questions? If there are not, we will happily just note the update and obviously await progress as it happens at Aaron's end.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Item 8 is transportation and other West Sussex County Council matters, of which there are none. Item 9 is master plan North Littlehampton, and I don't believe there's anything.
No, Chair, nothing further to report.
Nope, perfect. And then item 10 is exempt business, of which there is none. So it is 7:34 and I will close the meeting and thank all staff for their support and help in making the meeting happen. And if I could just remind members to remain quiet whilst the live feed is ending. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman.